Okay.
Well, good evening and welcome to the August webinar brought to you by the National Association for Holistic Aromatherapy. To learn more about NAHA, please visit www.naha.org. Tonight's presentation topic is Healing Wounds and Scars Emotionally and Physically with the Energetics of Essential Oils and Flower Essence for Humans and Their Animal Friends. The educational webinar is being presented by Callie, Holland, Azzaro. Callie is a registered aromatherapist, certified clinical aromatherapy practitioner, certified animal aromatherapy practitioner, certified bark flower practitioner, a licensed massage therapist. She's a past president of NAHA and the current NAHA Public Relations Director as well as the journal manager and co-editor for the NAHA Aromatherapy Journal. Kelly has over 20 years professional experience and educational training in aromatherapy and massage therapy. She also has specialized in training in canine and equine acupressure massage therapies, animal communication, crystal gemstone therapy, Reiki, aromatherapy and flower essence therapy for people and their animal friends. Kelly is the founder and director of the Holistic Animal Association Network and offers a NAHA-approved animal aromatherapy practitioner certification course. She and husband, Marco, a licensed acupuncturist, have a holistic healing center in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. To learn more about Kelly, please visit her websites at ashitherapy.com and www.holisticanimal.association.com. Thank you, Callie.
Thank you, Lara. I'm so excited to be here in this capacity. I love talking about the topics that are dear to my heart, and those two are aromatherapy and animals. And my presentation tonight, even though we're talking about healing wounds and scars, a lot of this information will also be applicable to our animal friends. So I think that this will be a helpful presentation for people that they can use for themselves, their family, and their animal friends as well. So I wanted to go ahead and get started because I've got a pretty long, detailed PowerPoint slide tonight with lots of information about aromatherapy. So I want to make sure that you're all able to stay for the whole presentation and get that information. And the topic is healing wounds and scars emotionally and physically with essential oil energetics. And what I mean by energetics comes more so from traditional Chinese medicine, and that's how I'm going to be presenting quite a bit of the information this evening. So when you think about scars, I want you to think about what comes to mind when you look at a scar, whether it's on your own body, on a stranger. Say you're out in public and you see somebody that has, really intense scars that are noticeable, or even on your animal friends. And take a moment to think about scars differently. Some people don't even give them a second glance, and other people could be, wow, what happened to that person? They have all these scars, or, oh, that poor animal, look at all these scars that they have. I think it's important when we're working with essential oils, especially when we're applying them topically for our own self and for self-care with our family, or whether it be with some of our animal friends, to look at the scar itself and know that it's much more than a physical type of mark. It also can carry around with it some emotional issues or blockages, and then we're going to talk about that during the presentation tonight, and how you can use the power of the energetics of the essential oils as well as the carrier oils and different botanicals that can help disperse those blockages physically and emotionally when it comes to scar tissue, whether it be emotional scars or actual physical scars. So when you look at these physical scar, on your own self or somebody else or a friend of yours or an animal friend, think about the possible memories of that trauma that may be associated with it. That's important as well, because you want to take that into consideration if you're going to be creating an aromatherapy blend. You want to look at the whole picture of not just say, well, the scar was due to a surgical procedure, so I'm going to look at this physically and I'm going to pick essential oils based on that. You can also pick essential oils based on emotional balance and how you can help that individual go through the healing process. There's also the fact to look at, especially with your own self with scars, and if you feel a sense of being connected to the wound or the scar. I look at scars and basically they're showing things that we've gone through in life, different events we've gone through in life, different injuries, different traumas. And I say to people, be proud to wear your scars. Don't hide them. I'm also a licensed massage therapist, so I do a lot of body work on people, and I also work on animals. So I see scars and scar tissue I deal with on a daily basis in my practice, and I just find the whole aspect of scars and healing based on energetics, and if the client is open to using essential oils, how powerful that can be to really helping them go to a different level of feeling, bringing them to their own connection to their scar and healing that wound, whether it be emotional or physical, and using the essential oils again to help them to overcome that trauma, move through it on different levels, whether it's from, a grieving or whether it was from a surgical procedure and they still have hypersensitivity from that. So that's what I really find fascinating about scars themselves. They often tell a story. And for people that work with animals that come from situations from rescues, or they're in a animal control situation and their background is not known, but you can see the physical scars on their body, and you can also see the way they carry their own being, and if they come across very fearful or guarded, and even though they might not have a physical scar, there may be a lot of emotional trauma back there. So you can use the essential oils to really help to open that up to aid in that healing process. And I have that little image there. It says, I'm still healing, but that's okay. And I think that's very important for people to understand when it comes to situations in healing, whether it be physical healing or emotional. Especially when it comes to the emotion of grieving, there's different levels to the grieving process. And oftentimes people are in a very hectic rush lifestyle and they want to quickly move through things, or they try to explain to somebody that they just recently lost a family member or a beloved pet, and the person may just dismiss what they're saying, like, oh, are you going to get a new pet or something, and just think it's not really a big deal. And I tell people, just go through your healing process as you need to go through it. There is no time limit on grieving or how you feel about a situation or when you're healing emotionally or physically from something. So just think about that little Band-Aid and how it's okay that you're still healing regardless of whatever it is, and you can help use the essential oils. And I also am going to include some flower essences as well in this presentation that you can use as well. So scars in regards to emotional and physical. I looked up the online dictionary to find what the definition was and how you may or may not resonate with some of the words and associated words that go with the word scar. And I found it kind of fascinating. In regards to physical scar, a mark left on the skin or within body tissue where a wound, burn, or sore has not healed completely. A fibrous connective tissue has developed. Associated words would be a blemish, discoloration, disfigurement, pockmark from having the chicken pox, lesion, and birthmark. Emotional scar, a lasting effect of grief, fear, or other emotion left on a person's character by a traumatic experience. Deep psychological scars. Associated words: damage, injury, trauma. Definition of a plant's scar. I actually found that online. A mark left at the point of separation of a leaf, frond, or other part from a plant, a former attachment. Associated words: damage, impact, injury, trauma. So even with the plants that we work with daily as aromatherapist, I think it's important. I know I've spoken about this before, about using essential oils and carrier oils and botanicals from a sustainable source, and just having that mindfulness when you're working with plant materials, whether you're an herbalist or gathering flowers and things like that. I like to always do a blessing over the flowers when I'm using them, when I'm making flower essences and using my essential oils, because I think it's important that they are giving up part of what they are in order to let us use them for healing processes. And I think that's pretty fascinating in itself, how the 3 types of scars listed here and the associated words with them. And as far as Meridian Energetics, now in traditional Chinese medicine theory, the body, it contains individual meridian channel pathways, and these relate to individual organ systems by the way of using energy, which is known as qi. And within those channels, there are specific acupuncture points associated to the energetics of those individual organ systems. So we can use this when we're working with essential oils, and how each essential oil has different energetics associated with it in regards to traditional Chinese medicine. And I find that really powerful when you're working with scar tissue in particular, because what happens when somebody has scarring physically in particular on a particular meridian channel, that actually can cause trauma to the meridian itself or blockages. So usually one of the most powerful things to use would to get an acupuncture treatment after having any type of traumatic scarring from an injury or surgical procedure or an impact, to help reopen or reestablish that connection with the meridian. And oftentimes, of course, the scar may be on actual acupuncture body points. So I think that the acupuncture is incredibly powerful, but so is the use of essential oils as well. And when the body experiences any type of injury or trauma, regardless of whether it's emotional or physical, it has an impact on these channels. And so it's really important to be mindful of that. And a lot of people don't realize that. And I can use an example of myself when I had an emergency appendectomy many, many years ago. And I still have some hypersensitivity to where the scar tissue is above and below it. Now, being married to an acupuncturist, I'm really lucky. I get to get acupuncture anytime that I need it. But even with that said, I still have hypersensitivity in that area. So I've used other body therapy treatments as well, like cupping and massage therapy, energy work. But the essential oils, I will continue to put those on as well to help to release that hypersensitivity. And in regards to the meridians themselves, they exist in all beings, human and animal. And I just included a little image there of some of the charts that are available online if you're interested in learning more about that, because you can actually apply essential oils diluted in specific carriers to specific acupuncture points as well as meridians to help with healing, whether it be with scar tissue or emotional issues. Now, in regards to blocked or concentrated energy, again, that has to do with traditional Chinese medicine, or our bodies are all made up of energy, whether you call it qi or prana, and this can get stuck and become blocked or stagnant, almost like a pool of water that needs to move, and if it doesn't move, it becomes stagnant and it's polluted. So it's important to move the qi and the energy in the body at all times, whether it be with our our own bodies or with our animal friends. You can help heal a lot of issues by just getting that energy and that chi moving in the body. And one area where it can become very, very concentrated is with issues with individuals that are hypersensitive to touch. This can show up in particular near surgical or traumatized areas in the body. And this is what I was speaking just before about the appendectomy that I had and how it just became so hypersensitive in that channel, in that area, and how, like I said, you can use the acupuncture, aromatherapy, energy therapies, all different types of therapies that you can use to help decrease that sensitivity, that tension, that build up, and also use it to decrease the actual adhesion, the actual scar tissue adhesion, or what may often be felt if you're a massage therapist or do body work, crepitus type crunchies that you might hear when you move your neck or your body. You can also use the carrier oils to help soften older scar tissue as well. Now with hypersensitivity to touch, that will often show up and manifest in pain. And that could be any type of pain. It could be an intense nerve reaction type pain. It could be just this chronic kind of overall achy pain. Like a lot of people that are diagnosed or consider that they have something like fibromyalgia, a lot of times it may not actually be that. It may be more their body is so guarded and hypersensitive to touch, from whether it be emotional traumas or physical. And so you can use the essential oils to help clients that have different types of chronic pain syndromes or chronic pain issues. It will show up as inflammation. There may be an area that's really inflamed and you have no idea. You don't understand why. Some people get inflamed under the armpit region of the body where a lot of lymphatic work can be done. Their skin may be inflamed. They don't know why. And we know nowadays that a lot of health issues are also caused by internal inflammation. So it's important to take care of the body and release all these blocked and concentrated energy so that you don't keep producing inflammation. It may also show up as itching. I've had clients that I've worked on, especially with back traumas. I'll start to work on their back, or even when my husband does acupuncture, they'll say, oh, that's itching. I can feel that point itching. And itching is also a form of healing when it comes to acupuncture, when somebody starts to itch after acupuncture. And it also could be like the natural histamine reaction to the acupuncture itself. You may also see muscle quivering or trembling, and this is seen, you can see this a lot in animals, especially animals that are herd bound like horses, deer, animals like that, cattle, where you'll see muscle quivering and trembling. They may do it on their own, or when you go to, say, pet your dog and you're petting your dog from the head to their tail and the muscle starts to quiver. That may be that just a lot of tension that's built up from either an impact or an injury or from past emotional trauma, that they become guarded, and they're so guarded that they really don't want the area to be touched. You may also see that that you're more sensitive to temperature changes. That's a sign too. If everybody else is feeling one way about the temperature and you're having a real negative reaction to it. Guard it or armoring, and this is often seen. Massage therapists will be familiar with this, where clients may say, don't touch my feet are so ticklish, or don't touch this area where I had major surgery done. And I usually like to ask clients, I like to ask them why, and if it's okay if they'll give me the opportunity to help them become less ticklish with maybe working their feet or working an area. And I find if you talk to your clients, or you're working on your children and doing massage on their back, just talk to them about why they're feeling a certain way like that. And with our animal friends, you can talk to them based on their body communication and what they're communicating to you. Also tightness, tension, jumpiness. Jumpiness is where you may see somebody, they come in the room and they didn't know that you're in there, and you say hello to them and they jump out of their skin. They just, jump when they hear a noise or something like that. Same thing with animals that become very easily startled. Ticklish, as I said before, fidgety, irritated, impatient, all these type of kind of hyperactive type of body responses. They all have a connection to being hypersensitive to touch. Now we're going to move into the essential oils. This is the most important part of the presentation, is to work with the essential oils to help with these scar tissue issues, whether it be emotionally or physically. And like I said before, you can apply them to specific acupuncture points or meridian pathways. If you're not familiar with acupuncture or acupressure points, that's fine. You can work a whole meridian pathway. If you're not familiar with meridian pathways, that's okay too. You could just do topical application to specific areas, or if you're having an issue on a scar, say on your elbow, you might want to massage the whole hand, arm, and then going up into the shoulder so that you can help that whole pathway. Another wonderful tool that you can use with essential oils is making mist sprays, and I like to use them to spray over the body energetic centers known as chakras, or chakras, however you pronounce that, and using that also to spray in the environment to help with improve feng shui energy flow, which is another whole aspect to blockages that could be affecting people, and particularly emotionally. So you can use the essential oil blends and mist sprays to use them with your own body, your animal friends. You can use them in the environment. Inhalation, whether you put one drop of essential oil on a tissue or you make a nice personal inhaler, these can be used very simply for issues that are associated with scars and wounds and trauma. For issues in particular, anxiety. Anxiety really responds to inhalation much quicker than topical application. Even just one drop of an essential oil such as Melissa oil can really help with anxiety and panic attacks. Anger, grief issues, now with grieving, that's going to be different processes that people are going to go through with that. So you can make different blends for them or use single oils based on what they're feeling at that time that they're going through that. Stress, trauma, nightmares. This, you'll see nightmares in animals too that often are lying on their bed and they're whining and their feet are going very, very fast at night. And then they start whining and crying and they're having like a nightmare. So you can help with that with using the aromas in particular, more so than topical application. Also, the biggie in regards to traumas that are associated with major damage to the body from an injury or trauma is reoccurring memories or thoughts associated with that particular scar, injury, or trauma, or what people may know as post-traumatic stress disorder. So the essential oils are phenomenal for helping people with that. You want to use your diffuser for environmental, emotional, physical, and spiritual uses. So the essential oils that I like to use oils individually first with clients to see if they have a positive or negative effect to them before I get into blending. But I've listed a lot of oils here that you can choose from and start off with and then get into creating blends. And one of the first oils that I always go for with physical effects from wounds and scars is carrot seed essential oil. It's cleansing and healing on physical scars and wounds and inflamed tissue. It also helps with the regeneration of new skin cells and tones and tightens weepy wounds. Now, weepy wounds, for you that are not familiar with that, that's a type of wound that will constantly drain, or a wound that needs to drain, like an ulcerated type wound, or from an abscess, or a wound that just will not heal. It's chronic and it won't heal. And it may not heal with some individuals if they have autoimmune disorders or other things going on. So carrot seed would be a good one to use for that. And it's good for meridian channels, in particular the liver and gallbladder, but it could also be used for the lung. So with the liver and gallbladder, with liver, the emotion that is associated with that is anger. And with the gallbladder, the emotion associated with that is frustration or overthinking. With the lung, it's associated with the emotion of grief. You can use the carrot seed topically or in mist sprays. It could be diffused. Personally, I don't diffuse it that often. I'm not too keen on its scent. It's pretty potentized, medicinal type scent. I find that I like to use it better in topical applications, especially when making any type of a balm or salve that's good for healing the skin. And if you take a look at that picture of the carrot seed plant, I think that it almost looks similar to what a scar or a pock mark or something like that might look like on the body. So I love the doctrine of signatures that apply to plants and the body parts as well. So I always like to look at that when I'm picking and choosing essential oils as well. And I'm going to update my PowerPoint, but carrot seed is more of a yang type essential oil. It has yin properties to it as well, but it's considered more of a yang, and you would use that definitely when you need to break up some blockages in regards to weepy wounds that are chronic, as well as old chelated scars. Now the chamomile oils, those are very important when it comes to any type of healing, any type of wound. If I was to say what essential oils you should have on hand for wound care, I would definitely say one of the chamomiles. German chamomile is a little bit more potentized in regards to being a antibacterial than Roman chamomile, but I happen to like the smell of Roman chamomile better. They're both wonderful, but they're both unique and different in their own design. And I would say lavender. So those would be two good major essential oils to have on hand for wound care. Would be a chamomile and a lavender. So with the chamomiles, they're very good at being antibacterial and anti-inflammatory in particular. And like I said, the German chamomile is going to be a stronger antibacterial than the Roman. And the Roman chamomile has some analgesic properties to it. They both do, but the Roman seems to help a little bit more in regards to pain relief. And I find that it works better when you're working with children or animals. They seem to resonate better to the smell from the Roman chamomile than the German. These meridians that are associated with the chamomile oils are kidney, bladder, which are connected to fear, the liver, gallbladder, connected to anger, frustration, and the heart, which has to deal with sadness. Just this heavy, deep sadness is always connected with the heart meridian. The lung, of course, is associated with grief. And then the stomach channel has to do with worrying, overthinking. Overthinking is also connected to gallbladder as well. And you can use the chamomiles in inhalation, diffusion, topical application, and mist sprays. Cypress, a lot of people might not think about using cypress in regards to wound care, but it's a wonderful deodorizer if you're working with wounds, in particular, again, the weepy type wounds, and they have a funky, stinky smell to them because they're very infected, or you need a wound that just needs to be tonified better and it needs to be tightened up with it. Cypress has really great astringent properties to it. And any type of wound that has to do with the reproductive system or the respiratory system would respond well to cypress. Cypress is wonderful for doing sitz baths for people that have hemorrhoids or if they've had any surgery from that or post giving birth. The cypress would be one to consider. And it's associated with kidney, bladder, lung, conception, and governing vessels. Now the conception and governing vessels are two major meridian vessel channels that connect in the circular movement with the body. And a conception vessel, of course, has to do with conception, and this is the governing vessel, has to do with protection, and it's located on our backs. And it's a major channel, and it has to do with protecting the body from invasive pathogens. So it's a very important channel and vessel. And when we are petting our animal friends, we usually like to pet their back, so we're constantly working on stimulating or sedating that governing vessel. And then when they want their belly rubbed, we're working that conception vessel. And the conception vessel is heavily connected to the sex organs and reproductive area. So that's why the cypress really fits in well with those two vessel meridians in particular. And you can use the cypress for protection. So if an animal or an individual went through a lot of traumatic issues and they may have post-traumatic stress, you know, they're hypersensitive or they're guarded in their back, cypress would be a great essential oil to consider using. Again, through inhalation, diffusion, topical application, or mist sprays. And what I love about cypress is that it was traditionally used in many different ceremonial practices to cleanse the body and the spirit, and it's also used in meditation and in sweat lodges to help lift the spirit and, you know, with meditating, but also when individuals have passed on or have transited, you can use cypress in a diffuser. A lot of people will use the incense, but you can just use the essential oil in a diffuser and help with that transition. Frankincense, this is another great essential oil for wound healing, and in particular dealing with grief issues, sadness, and protection, both emotional and physical. It really has amazing healing properties to it in regards to skin damage. So any type of skin damage, whether it's been from the sun, you can consider using frankincense essential oil. It's great for breaking up scar tissue adhesions, and it also helps dry out weepy type wounds. Good for the respiratory system. Now, a lot of people that will have chronic grieving issues that they've never resolved, and I don't think sometimes, depending on the loss in someone's life, it doesn't mean that we will ever get over it, but we move through it on different levels in our life and learn and grow. And it doesn't take away anything from what we went through with that loss, but there are different levels to how people process grief. And if somebody's been hanging on to something for a really long time and they haven't moved through those little steps, baby steps, and they've just really taken over their life, they may manifest symptoms that have to do with the respiratory tract, in particular like wheezing, asthma, allergies, things like that may be unresolved grief or deep sadness. So that's something to look about with your pets, your family, and yourself, and consider maybe getting some acupuncture and using essential oils for that. Geranium. Most people like geranium essential oil or have this on hand, and it's pretty well known in aromatherapy for a lot of issues like hormonal balancing, emotional support, but what it's really great for is skin healing. And it also has deodorizing properties to it. So again, if you're working with a funky kind of a wound, it's stubborn to heal, it's weepy, you can consider using the geranium essential oil, especially like on skin ulcers and burns, not major burns, but minor burns. And as long as you have the okay to use that, if you had heavy scar tissue from some burns, the geranium will be useful for that. And because it's very rich, floral, it aids in balancing emotions that are associated with any kind of fear or anger, specifically anger, because this essential oil is heavily connected to the liver meridian, which has to deal with the emotion of anger. So, you know, a lot of times when people go through traumas and maybe they have the emotional wound or the scar, but they don't have the physical, a lot of anger and issues can come up from that. So this is a great oil, geranium, to use with post-traumatic stress disorder, chronic anxiety, and panic attacks. Heliocrism, This is very well known for its anti-inflammatory properties and for also working with the lymphatic system. So say that there has been, somebody's had major surgery, or a woman is a breast cancer survivor and has had, mastectomy, or had lymphatic nodes removed, and now there's extra edema, or, you can try some, not only massage cupping is really helpful for that, but the Helichrysum is really wonderful. It will help pump the lymphatic properties into the system, but it will also help with any actual physical scarring due to that. And it can be blended with some wonderful carrier oils that we're going to go over soon, that have to do with very sensitive areas on the body. I really like to use Helichrysum for any kind of deep wounds, even ligament tears. I used Helichrysum with one of my horses when she had actually had a ligament cut tear from a fence line, and the Helichrysum was amazing along with Calendula and yarrow. It really healed that up on such an amazing level. Anytime anybody's had any kind of dental surgery or nerve injury or degeneration in the spine and it's affecting their nerves, try Helichrysum. It also is good for those weepy wounds or skin ulcers, wet or dry skin ulcers, as well as burns and from bee stings. It will help take out the stinging from bug bites or stings. I really like the other common names of Helichrysum, which a lot of people don't use that much anymore, but I like the names. Everlasting and Immortal, they both to me signify powerful strength, inner and outer. And so I like to tap into the strength of Heliocrism and its energetics and using it for both emotional and physical wounds. It is a great essential oil to use for liver and gallbladder energetics as well. It can help to dissipate frustration, pent-up frustration, which may manifest as anger or aggression, is often sometimes frustration. So try using the Helichrysum for that. Good old lavender. We all know that lavender is one of the #1 healing essential oils for healing wounds and skincare and issues like that. And I consider it like the aromatic first aid for emotional and physical. It's also useful for disturbed sleep, nightmares, anxiety, panic attacks, hypersensitive to touch and sound. These again have to do with post-traumatic stress issues, traumas, things again that you may see with animals that you don't know their back history. You would definitely consider using lavender. Also, lavender is great to use whether you use the hydrosol or the essential oil to help cleanse and heal the wound. Good for weepy wounds as well. Myrrh is a really great essential oil for wound care. You can also get myrrh in a herbal tincture and use that as well if you didn't want to use the essential oil, or if you want to use both of them. I like to use myrrh a lot in making balms and salves for skincare issues. Myrrh can also prevent infections and promotes tissue repair. So this is a very good one if you will have horses or animals that are turned outside and can often come up with issues that have a sore or scrape, or you have no idea how they got a wound. Myrrh is a good one to have on hand when you have horses and farm animals. And it's really great for skin ulcers, bed sores, weepy and infected wounds. So say you had an elderly parent that you're caring for at home, or you work in a hospice or nursing situation, this is a good essential oil to have on hand to help with those type of wounds, especially like skin cracks that are located on the hands and the feet, which can happen often with elderly people or people that are diabetic. So consider using the myrrh for that. And it's associated with the lung meridian, again, help with grieving. The spleen, and the spleen meridian has to do with the immune system and supporting the immune system. So myrrh is definitely a big one for the immune system. And governing vessel, again, that's our meridian channel that runs along our back. So myrrh is a good protection essential oil for helping with that. Palmarosa, I love Palmarosa in regards to its hydrating properties. It actually will help hydrate skin. So if you have some wounds or scars that you're dealing with that are dried out, the tissue needs some hydrating benefits, or it needs to be stimulated for some more cellular regeneration, try the Palmarosa. It's beautiful. It's got its nice rose-like scent. Animals love the smell of it. It also helps with all kinds of emotional issues connected with scars and trauma, fear, panic, grief, deep sadness. So it's one that's good for the heart meridian, because remember, the heart meridian is associated with deep sadness. Rock rose, or also known as cistus, most people know it as cistus, but it's known as rock rose. This is a very potent essential oil. It's very good as an antimicrobial. So when you're dealing with any type of skin ulcers or bed sores, any kind of MRSA type infection or stubborn wound, a wound that's taking too long to heal. Again, if somebody's diabetic and they have the skin wounds or any type of long-term wound that's just taking too long, this would definitely be one to consider to use. And it also works very well when you're making a balm or a salve. I love its smell. It has a slight hint of vanilla, even though in some of the books it says more balsamic type scent, but I really like this, and I use this oil a lot when I'm working with animals to help increase their confidence level when they've gone through a lot of trauma as well. And I do that just with 1 drop on a tissue for inhalation. Rose. Now we all know that rose, as well as rose hip seed oil, are one of the most potent oils in regards to healing skin wounds, traumas, whether it be emotional or physical. And I like to think of rose as the healer of the heart. So that it's very heavily connected with the heart meridian. Pretty much I associate both lavender and rose with, they pretty much can help with all the meridians, but the rose is wonderful for, it has antibacterial properties, antiseptic, antiviral. So this is a good one to use for any issue that has to do with any kind of herpes lesions, whether it be shingles or cold sores. Even horses can get that type of a herpes type infection in the lung, so it's good to use for that. And often the emotion connected with that, if somebody gets a cold sore or something, is they feel shameful or embarrassed. So the rose really helps to make somebody feel a little bit more okay with that, and let that go, and just know that it's okay and it's going to heal over time. And it's also good for the immune system, the rose oil. You can use it for skin ulcers, weepy wounds, scar tissue adhesions, as well as burns. And if you're not able to get rose essential oil, you can try a hydrosol and use that, or you can try the palmarosa or the geranium instead. Yarrow is a wonderful essential oil, as well as hydrosol, to use for its anti-inflammatory and antiseptic, astringent type properties. It also will help stop bleeding, arrest bleeding. So if you have a wound that just keeps bleeding, you could use geranium, yarrow. Those two would be, as well as Helichrysum, those 3 would be great to help with any type of a wound that just keeps bleeding as well. With the yarrow essential oil and even the herbal tincture, it's quick to heal wounds. So you just want to keep an eye out for that when you're working with a wound that you don't want to close up too quickly, or if you have an abscess that's trying to drain and you don't want it to seal up too quick. So just got to keep an eye on that. It's good for skin ulcers and bed sores, and again, weepy type wounds. This one is definitely going to help with the governing vessel for protecting our immune system. So with the essential oils, besides them having the physical properties that are listed on those PowerPoints, we also want to consider other oils to use to deal with emotional issues that are surrounding or identifying with certain scars and traumas. I really like the flower oils, the floral oils. To me, they're like the flower power in regards to healing on different levels. And I like clary sage, jasmine, neroli, and ylang ylang to work with. Clary sage, any kind of upliftment when somebody is just very heavy sadness. There's a lot of heavy sadness, heavy grief. They may feel resentful. They're just not happy about their life and traumas that they've been through, and they're not able to move through them. I would try clary sage for that. It also helps with any kind of female surgical procedures, from giving birth, reproductive organ removal, breast surgery, as well as any urinary or bladder or lung surgery, because clary sage is a great essential oil to inhale if you ever have any wheezing or asthmatic type symptoms. Just put 1 drop on a tissue. Jasmine, very potent. You only need 1 drop, if any. Want to dilute that. That's a good one for anger, fear, and anxiety. It's also another one that's known too to help women with after childbirth as well. Neroli is one of my favorite essential oils, and that is great for anxiety attacks and panic attacks, and helps with nightmares. And so you can use that before you go to bed if you have a lot of nightmares, or it doesn't even have to be nightmares. It can be active dreaming where you feel like you're not getting enough sleep and you're just constantly going through things in your mind about traumas or things that have happened in your life. Try the neroli. The ylang ylang is one of the main oils that I use for both humans and animals that are hypersensitive to touch, which you talked about earlier, or if they're guarded or they have that trembling in their body, as well as for people and animals that are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. So I'm going to go over some of the carrier oils and the botanical bases that will be useful for skin and wound healing. And I love this image here of borage flower. I just think it's such a spiritual, beautiful flower there for healing the skin. And we're going to cover that one coming up shortly. And there's 2 of my favorite carrier oils that I like to use with animals, and that's aloe vera, and the other one is the jojoba. But aloe vera is great for people that have animals, like farm animals, that are going to be turned outdoors a lot or are very furry or hairy. The aloe vera can really help to get the essential oil on topically and not leave the animal's fur too greasy. Same thing for people. Say you want to work with your skin, but going to work, you don't want to have a lot of different oils on you. Aloe vera is wonderful, and aloe vera just on its own can help heal burns. So I always have a big aloe vera plant in my kitchen, and I often will get some burns, and the first thing I'll do is run under cold water, but then I will apply aloe vera too. So. And as you can see, it has some really potent constituents to it that really help with, as far as antioxidants for skin issues and healing the skin and things like that. And it's anti-inflammatory, antiseptic, and it also has some analgesic properties to it, believe it or not. Which you may find that if you get any bug bites or stings and you use the aloe vera, it will help numb that out a little bit. And you can use it for minor burns, wound care, dry, chapped skin, scar tissue softening, as well as for protection. So I like to use aloe vera gel blends too for if I'm working with horses or animals that are outside and they have an open wound and you don't want it to fester from fly bites or things like that. You can make a protective type blend out of the aloe vera to apply over the wound care that you've already given, and then put that over it as a sealant, as a protectant to help from insect bites. Apricot kernel carrier oil is high in vitamin A. It's so light and silky, and I like to use this more so for skin issues that are more in the facial area or abdominal. Like when I made my own carrier blend with essential oils for my scar tissue, I used apricot and rosehip oil for the more sensitive areas. So say you work with a lot of clients, or you do facial massage or facial treatments, and you're working with scar tissues like that, or for someone for self-care from breast surgery, things like that, they might want to try the apricot kernel. It also has, believe it or not, a little bit of analgesic properties to it that help with arthritis and rheumatic type stiffness and inflammation. Avocado oil, very, very thick, but it's high in vitamin D and lecithin, so it's going to help with skin softening, especially with keloid type scars or deep skin cracks, which you may see people that work outside a lot or people that are gardeners or use their hands a lot, as well as heels. On the heel of the foot, you may see deep cracks. You can try avocado to help that for healing that type of damage to the skin or any type of wounds. I don't use avocado with animals because if they lick that off, they could get some reaction to that. So that's not one I really, and I put a safety disclaimer there for that. Barrage is that beautiful picture that I showed you before, one of my favorite prettiest flowers. This is high in gamma linoleic acid, which really helps with the overall internal inflammation. So you can get this oil in itself in capsules. It's available in health food stores. And a lot of women will take that, or evening primrose, because it can help with some like hormonal balancing or when the skin is very dry. It's also good to use for facial scars as well as abdominal and breast area. And it can be semi-thick, so you can dilute this with a different nice thinner carrier oil such as apricot or the rose hip. It has hydrating, moisturizing, emollient type properties to it. It also helps with sun damage and wrinkles. Calendula, this is a macerated type oil that's made with the calendula flowers that are soaked in a carrier oil. It is really great anti-inflammatory. It also will help with wounds that are bleeding. But one thing in regards to using calendula, as I mentioned earlier about yarrow essential oil, as well as, or if you're going to use calendula or yarrow herbal tincture in any format, it really speeds up healing very, very quickly. So be careful if you're working with wounds that don't need to have a scab form too quickly, or you need them to drain. So just keep an eye on that as well. I like to use the calendula in making balms and salves. It's really good for dog issues, dogs or horses that get hot spots, any kind of puncture wound or ligament tear, things like that. It's really great for that. Camellia, this is not often commonly used in aromatherapy, but it's a really great essential, not essential oil, I'm sorry, a carrier oil. It's like, feels like silk. It's amazing, and you only need a little teeny bit of it, and you can mix it in with a different carrier oil, like the rose hip or the apricot or the evening primrose, and it gives it the overall blend almost like a lubricating type outer protection, silky texture. So I like to use this when there needs to be protection, like say of any kind of deep cracked skin on the hands, the elbows, the feet, or if there's a scar that is recent and it needs to be protected, you can use this type of carrier oil. It also helps with regenerating as well, but it's mostly a moisturizing and protection type carrier oil. Carrot. Now, carrot oil is different from the carrot seed essential oil, so you don't want to mix these two up. And this is another macerated type oil you can make by infusing dehydrated roots from the cultivated orange carrot and doing that in like a vegetable oil such as olive oil or sunflower oil. You can make this yourself. It's wonderful because you can make a salve with it, a balm with it. It's really high in beta-carotenes, so it will temporarily stain the skin, but you can blend it in with another carrier oil so that's not as orange. You could use this for any type of scars, old and new, minor burns, and in particular sun damage. I like to combine it with Tamanu carrier oil for use with scar tissue. type issues. And there's a really great article that Jade Schutz wrote in one of the NAHA journals. It's the NAHA Aromatherapy Journal 2015.4. That was our winter issue. And it's a wonderful article. She gives you all the properties and history behind carrot oil, and she tells you how to make it. And so I would highly recommend that you check out that article. And I think she has that on her blog too, so if you're interested in making your own macerated carrot oil. Coconut, pretty much everybody nowadays knows coconut oil. They use coconut oil. They take coconut oil internally. It's a wonderful carrier oil that really helps when you're making any type of balm or salve or an ointment. And it will help to soften scar tissue and moisturize. And it also has antifungal properties to it as well. So if you're dealing with any type of a fungal issue from any type of a wound, and then it gets fungus in it, which might happen often with horses and hoofed typed animals that are exposed to too much moisture, you can use the coconut oil for that. I like to use the organic cold pressed coconut oil. You can warm it up to liquefy it a little bit. You can also use this for cracked dry lips or cuticles, any kind of calluses that need to be softened, or facial scars. Evening primrose. This is another one that's high in essential fatty acids, especially GLA. And women in particular like to take this in the capsulated form. It's available like in health food stores. It's really a good anti-inflammatory. It can help with sensitive breasts that become very sore during menstrual period or hormonal changes. You can use it for that. But what's wonderful about it too is a lot of people don't realize it's good for eczema and psoriasis. So you could take it that way, but you could also apply it topically. And if you're not able to buy it in its pure liquidized form, you can buy some of the capsules and pierce that, and you just squeeze it right out of the capsule and apply that to any type of eczema or psoriasis area on the skin. I like to combine it with other carrier oils, the apricot or borage or the jojoba, even rosehip. It works nice for that. It also helps to soften and protect. Hypericum, that is another macerated oil that's used to made a diffusion out of infusing St. John's wort, the red sap that is contained in the leaves, stems, and flowers of the plant. So I put a picture there so you can see how deeply red that can be when you make that or purchase that type of a base oil on your own. It's really good for healing most types of wounds, minor burns, skin ulcers, whether they're dry or wet, weepy type wounds, bed sores. It's also useful for nerve pain from sciatica or neuropathy, as well as post-surgery, especially dental surgery. So you could combine the Hypericum carrier oil, and we go back through and we look at our essential oils, and one of them is the Helichrysum. That helps with any type of nerve pain, nerve damage, or post-surgical damage to the nerve or type pain. So those are two things that you could combine, would be the Helichrysum essential oil with the Hypericum carrier oil. Jojoba, we're all familiar with this wonderful plant ester that's actually a liquefied wax. This is the second carrier oil that I use most often when I'm working with animals. I like to use this for when I'm working with people, more so for adhesions, scar tissue, has to do with the scalp, anything up on the face, the hair, any kind of recent scarring to the facial area, people that get facelifts, type surgical type issues that may arise from them having a surgery with their face, dental work. You can use this on its own. You can use it by itself or combine it with the different carrier oils. It's also good when there's deep pitted marks from acne or cystic type acne, sun damage. It helps to soften and protect. So here's another one for protecting our skin. Meadow foam seed. A lot of people are not familiar with this or don't use this. You only need a little teeny bit. It reminds me similar to the Camellia type oil, And you can use this mixed in with different carrier oils and use it for more for its vitamin E content, which will help extend the shelf life of your carrier oil as well. And it also has the skin moisturizing and the protectant properties. So this one again would be a great one for a protective barrier for any kind of skin or wound care that's going to be exposed to the elements. You could use it for dry, cracked, brittle type cuticles, nails, anything like that. Olive oil. I like to use olive oil mainly when I'm doing a balm or salve making. Not everybody's skin responds well to the use of olive oil. Some people actually get a little itchy from it, but what I found fascinating is it will help with some people with eczema and psoriasis, but it will really help that deep, chapped, cracked, damaged type skin, as well as you can use it for spot treatments right on an area that has a ropey type scar where it just clinks back and forth when you're working on it. You can use just plain olive oil for that. Rose hip seed. This to me I think would probably be one of the top carrier oils that I would say to have in your aromatic toolbox for when you're working with clients or your family or friends or yourself and dealing with any kind of healing from tissue damage, skin damage from burns, scar tissue. It is a powerful tissue regenerator, and you can use it for any kind of scars, old, new, keloided scars. It's one of my favorites. I always blend it with different carrier oils as well to extend it, or you can just use it on its own. And tamanu oil is wonderful. A lot of aromatherapists are using this now, but it has a kind of nutty type scent to it. But what I really like about it is its therapeutic properties, because it's really a wonderful carrier oil just to use on its own. You don't even have to use essential oils with it, or you can combine it and dilute it down with a different carrier such as jojoba and use it, or like apricot if you want it to use it for arthritis or type neuropathy or any kind of nerve pain from herpes or shingles, cold sores, any type of damage that's done from any type of nerve pain, anything like that. This is definitely a carrier oil that you want to use, or use it in a blend with a different, and then combine essential oils with it as well. So we've covered the essential oils and the carrier oils, and the wonderful world of aromatherapy. I love hydrosols. I use them all the time, and in particular when I'm working with animals, because they're a much gentler type thing to use over the essential oils when it comes to the more sensitive type animals that maybe won't be able to tolerate essential oils. But hydrosols can be used just on their own to cleanse the wound and help scar tissue, as well as for anybody that is very hypersensitive to scents or potent scents. I like to use the Calendula, Chamomile, Lavender, and the Yarrow hydrosols mainly when I'm working with any kind of cleansing for wound care, calming any kind of irritated skin. And then I like to use the hydrosol of witch hazel when I need to tighten up any kind of weepy wound or decrease itching that's going on through the healing process, which will often happen a lot. You may see with some of your animal friends, you'll get that wound, it will start to heal, they start scratching it and biting it, and you don't want them to reopen that and reinfect it, so you can make a mist spray just on its own with the witch hazel to help with that. I also like to incorporate the use of herbal tinctures or extracts, and these can be quite effective in extending the power and potency of your blends. Or if you're not even wanting to use essential oils and you want to just say use the distilled witch hazel, you can also incorporate the use of some herbal extract tinctures to add to your blends as well, to help with the healing process. And the two in particular are the Calendula and Yarrow. And again, with these two, be mindful when you're using them, they really speed up the healing process. Powdered clays, which a lot of people might not be or may be familiar with or already use these. They're pretty well known in the aesthetics world and in spa treatments for using them with facials and things like that. But they're wonderful to have on hand when you're dealing with wound care with animals that are going to be turned outside a lot, because you can mix these up with your aloe vera when you're making that protective barrier over an existing wound. You can also use them for abscesses and help draw out the pus and infection from an abscess. If there is type of weepy wound or an ulcerated wound, they can help with that as well. But they're mainly great for drawing out and protection. So think of them as good old protectors are these clays. And they're very available in a lot of different types. There's a lot more than the 3 that I have listed here, but the most common ones are green. The green is known more so for its drawing out properties, in particular like acne, boils, things like that, but it helps with itching. So if you're dealing with a wound that's going through a lot of itching, you can use the green clay. The pink clay is known for its calming properties. It also helps with some itching. It has a mild drying property to it. So this one's going to be good when you have wet, weepy type wounds. And the white clay is calming, soothing, and protective. It has a little teeny bit of sun factor protection to it, but not enough to say, to use it on its own. But it's great. I use that one a lot with my horses, and when they, a lot of times they may get sunburned, and then they get skin that dries up and is painful from too much sun. So I make a aloe vera blend with the white clay and just use that almost as a natural type protective barrier to prevent from sunburn. Also, if yourself or your children, your animals get a bug bite or a sting, put a clay right on that. Just get it with a little bit of distilled witch hazel and make it just enough where it's like a paste, a wet paste, and apply that over that. Also, I list it for herpes, shingles. When those are coming to a head, you can use the clays to help draw that out and help decrease some of the pain and inflammation with that. I also included some basic information on flower essences. That in itself is a whole nother webinar and course in itself, but I love to incorporate the use of flower essences with essential oils and the carriers and making blends for topical use. And I have an image here of some flowers that I did a solar infusion with, and I just thought that was such a beautiful picture in itself. It looks healing on many levels. But for those of you that are not familiar with flower essences, they're considered the vibrational essence that is derived from the plant or flower, but there's also some flower essences that are derived from water sources that have to do with these springs that are known for their healing properties, and also minerals. There's people that make their own flower essences from minerals and crystals and gemstones as well. And they're traditionally derived from either the solar or lunar infusion. So that would have to do with the sun, like the picture I just showed, or with the moon. You can make your own essences yourself, but there's so many different ones out there on the market. And the main one where they all were derived from was from the Bach flower essences or Bach flower remedies, and they use these to make a mother tincture, and from that then they make essence stock bottles, and those are what you will typically see in the health food store. Will be the essence stock bottle where it's potentized in there, and then you would purchase that and you would take like 1 to 3 drops out of that stock bottle and then put that into either an individual remedy bottle, or if you're going to incorporate them like I do with aromatherapy blends, and you would put 1 to 3 drops right in your blends based on what you're using that specific blend for, or if you're applying to acupuncture points or meridians themselves. What I really like about the flower essence remedies is they're useful for both people and animals. They don't interfere with any other treatments. They don't have any side effects. They're so easy to use. They're so easy to take. You don't want to use them as a substitute for any type of medical care, of course, but they're so readily available and easy to use, and animals are so much more open to holistic healing and therapies like this than people who will tend to analyze and say, does that really work? And where with animals, you can use a flower essence and see that it works. It's just that easy. And like I said, the most well-known ones were made by Dr. Bach. You can research a lot of that online, but their main remedy is known as Rescue Remedy, and I listed below what that contains, and that has 5 individual flower essences in the main remedy, and this remedy in itself is great for any kind of trauma, emotional, physical. I even have used Rescue Remedy directly right on scar tissue and wounds itself, or any type of trauma or impact. And it has cherry plum in it, which is for fear of losing mental control or panic, that intense panic feeling like you feel like you're just going to lose it about some kind of trauma that happened, or something comes up again and you're feeling like, oh wow, I really feel like this just keeps coming up over and over again. It also has clematis in it, which is useful for fainting or any type of sensation of feeling out of body, or you don't feel connected with your body. You stumble a lot, you're not in your body, you bump into things, you're not in the present moment in regards to what's happening around you. Impatience, we know what that one's for. Irritability, hypersensitive, agitation due to pain. So this could be from emotional pain or physical pain. Rock rose for terrified, panic feeling. That terrified, trembling, really fearful type, hyper, almost ventilating type. And Star of Bethlehem, which is for shock, trauma, and the after effect of stress or trauma. Those individual remedies you can get them on their own and use them individually, but you could just get the same benefit from using them in that blend that they make. And I also included a couple of other additional flower essences that are good for emotional wound healing from any type of trauma. And pine, which we know in regards to an essential oil, with inhaling that, it's really good for the respiratory system. And the meridian, again, connected to the respiratory system, is the lung and grief and grieving. So pine flower essence can be used for grief, feeling, and any type of feelings of guilt associated with grief or loss, where you're in that thought process, like, if I would have did this, or if I would have said that, or if I would have made this change or did that change, that wouldn't have happened, that type of mindset. Crab apple flower essences for feelings of uncleanliness or connected to shame or dislike of your own body, or you feel hypersensitive about the scar on your face and you feel like everybody's looking at you, or you feel sensitive about some type of surgery you went to or a past trauma and you just don't feel so good about yourself. The crabapple is useful for that. And again, you can add these to your hydrosol sprays, or you can add these to your essential oil blends, or just use them on their own. And I included a basic healing skin mist spray recipe. I use this for almost everything and anybody. I also use this on my dog and my horses. I share this with people all the time that have issues with their dogs, with hot spots, any kind of wounds. You can use this recipe to help cleanse the wound as well as heal it. And besides the fact that it has the distilled witch hazel, or if you want to use witch hazel hydrosol, it also contains colloidal silver, which is a known antibacterial in it. And then I include both calendula and yarrow herbal tincture. And this recipe stores nicely. You can store it in the refrigerator if you want as well. But what I like about it too is that you use it as is without essential oils, so you can use this for people or animals that are sensitive to too many scents, or say their skin has a lot of issues, itchiness, and they just can't tolerate the scents, or the essential oil topically. You can use this one spray. It's kind of a catch-all recipe for so many different issues with minor wounds, cuts, scrapes, also bug bites and stings. And like I said, you can use it for cleaning out a wound too. So if you have animals that are farm animals and you're out in the field, you can put this in an aroma safe plastic type bottle, carry this around with you, and help to clean out a wound really quick if you're out in the field. And just a little basic, we pretty much all know about the common sense guidelines of essential oil safety, but you always want to follow the safety guidelines in regards to contraindications when you're using essential oils, and dilute them for topical use. Use caution and care when you're working with small animals and frail elderly individuals. That applies to with our younger and older animal friends. And keep essential oils and botanicals out of reach of children and animals. They can be very quick to grab those bottles. You want to avoid the use of essential oils with and around cats and birds, and do not use them near fish or reptile environments. So you want to keep that in mind if you diffuse essential oils as well. If you're going to use oils with animals, you want to use caution based on, just like you would with people, based on their individual health history. They have any allergies, contraindications, and then we also want to take into consideration their age, breed, and size, because not all animals can tolerate the use or exposure to essential oils. So those are some things to keep in mind, and I've included some links back to the NAHA website. NAHA website is a basic aromatherapy 101 class in itself. Love that NAHA website. Got to go visit it. I included some references, and I also included that if you like some of the images throughout the document, I use quite a few of my own images, but as well as the images available on the NAHA image database, which is available for sale through the NAHA bookstore. And that's a great thing if you do your own PowerPoints or classes. And if you want to contact me for more information, you can go to the end of my PowerPoint, and my contact information is up there. But that's it for my presentation tonight. I had a lot of information I needed to cover, and I know we went over a little bit, but I hope that you all enjoyed it. So I really appreciate you all being here. Thank you.